Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, we do have a pretty full agenda, so let's just start at the top. I think it's in a reasonable order to attack. And Gabriel, you have the first topic.
Yeah, hey Larry, hi everyone.
Hey.
Yeah, so this is one PR that we have as kind of like an improvement for the UPF. So we have basically, besides this PR, there is a set of probably like 5 to 6 waiting to be open. But the thing is that this PR is kind of relevant because there's going to be conflicts with the other ones if we don't make any decision about this specific component. And the key piece of this PR is to use a JSON-C instead of JSON for the configuration of the UPF. JSON-C kind of gives the advantage that you can insert comments in the file, so it's easy to kind of show what or describe many things instead of kind of just presenting as it currently is, like just quotation marks. That's kind of the bring this to see what the TST group thinks about this. If there is any feedback, there is this PR that is already open. I have tested with the UPF in a standalone mode, and also I have tested with the Aether in a box. From the UPF perspective, everything is in the PR, but if we want to use later on the Helm charts, this needs to be updated to point to UPF .JSON-C instead of the UPF JSON itself. But yeah, so the main point here is to see what the community thinks about this. If there is any feedback, if there is any reviewers that can provide any feedback to see how we move forward with this part, because again, I have like 5 to 6 PRs in the pipeline that I don't want to open them yet because I need to see what's going to happen with this JSON-C to avoid conflicts.
So let's start. I think there's a couple issues here. Does anyone have narrowly JSON-C comments or feedback? It seems like a good idea.
Larry, I have discussed this with Gabriel. So it looks like a good change. Just the caveat here is that we need to make sure that as soon as this UPF code gets merged, if somebody wants to use the latest code and the old Helm charts, they will see the failure. So we will have to possibly generate the new Helm charts. That's the only one caveat, but otherwise it's good to have change and like, because it seems like on the face of it, it looks like a cosmetic change, but I think having this better file format for the configuration is helpful.
So yeah, so that you actually raised the second issue, which is the impact on legacy stuff. So you will, if you explicitly call out a version of the Helm chart, and I forget the version number now, then this will not impact you.
Yeah.
So it's only if I call out a version number in the Helm chart, I would need. I'm sorry, only if I got latest, the default, would I have a problem?
I don't think that's going to be a problem, right? So this is going to be a problem as soon as we merge this code. It's going to be a problem if somebody wants to use the latest UPF with the current Helm charts. That's when the problem is going to happen.
Yes, correct.
But regular user that just deploys the Aether on ramp or Aether in the box,
they will not
with the
see
Helm
any
charts,
difference.
they're not going to see any problem in here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, only if somebody is actively trying to pull the latest UPF code, make some changes and try out their changes, right? Then they will have to make sure that they take the latest Helm chart as well.
All right.
But majority of our users may not see this.
It's only if you're explicitly pulling the latest UPF image.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay. And that's, for now, until, and then changing the Helm charts, which can happen whenever and maybe it's actually related to one of the other, a new SD core release for that matter.
Correct. That's what I put the next bullet point that mentioned about UPF and SD core release, which is the a bullet point that I just added, because all those things are going to impact the Helm charts. We need to do the Helm charts updates.
Right. So these next, let's kind of just touch on that. Then these next two bullets, specifically to the UPF and then also related to the core, that's all one big problem, right? I mean, in terms of coordinating this.
Not necessarily a problem.
I'm sorry, not problem, but it's all tied up together. It's part of let's call it the SD core, the new release.
Yeah, as soon as we do a new release, of course we have to do these Helm charts, and there are several changes that we need to do in the Helm charts. A few, as I mentioned earlier, regarding the now calling UPF.JSON-C instead of the UPF.JSON,
Right.
which is nothing extraordinary. But there are a few more things that we merged. So for the SCTPLB, the format that the latest SCTPLB expects its input file is different to the one that is in the Helm chart. So we need to make updates in there. I found when I was kind of going through the Helm charts, there are a few things as well related to the metric func pod. For some reason, that pod completely ignores the repo, the URL for the repo itself. It only calls the image only by its name. So basically, you can pull anything, all the images from any repo that you want, but metric font is always going to be pointing to the Docker, which is the default one, because it doesn't have in there. So that's kind of like some minor issue that needs to be fixed in the Helm charts. When we have been working with the UPF in our different internal projects, I have noticed there is a few things related to the UPF Helm charts. There is a couple features that don't seem to work, or I don't understand why they were added in the first place. I don't have the whole, historical background or information about that. But those two things, something related to security, and I don't have in the top of my mind the other one, but they don't seem to be working, because when I enable those capabilities, basically just everything breaks. So the Helm chart need to be some cleanup also needs to be done in there.
So I have a very pedantic question here, and maybe this is just terminology, but I want to get it straight. When I saw the next bullet, SD core release, I assumed that was both control and user plane. And
Correct.
you called, the way you phrased it, UPF stands independent of SD core. And I'm getting very pedantic here on what we call things. It's just, when you say SD core, in your mind, you're talking about the control plane only. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. So
okay.
Yeah, probably I just want why I added the UPF parentheses, the different things, is just to kind of highlight the features that we have added in the UPF. But
okay.
But yeah,
so if I just make a note to sort of to myself here, so the SD core release includes UPF changes. See above.
Correct. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we hadn't, there's one SD core release coming up. It will include a number of things that AJ has been doing and others in the control plane, and will include the changes you've been making in the user plane.
Yes, and besides that, the other thing that what I was trying to emphasize with the second bullet is that at the moment, I think a few weeks ago, I mentioned that the Helm charts for the UPF, those are inside the SD Fabric Helm charts, umbrella charts, right? So that's the other thing that I wanted to emphasize in here.
What are we going to do about that?
So we should move them inside the SD core Helm charts.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the other reason why I put it in this way, is just to kind of emphasize all these different changes that need to happen in the Helm charts.
Oh, okay. Excellent. That explains all of this now. I think that I'd forgotten about that. Okay, so as of the next release, we will have changes to the various images, and we will have unified the Helm chart to some extent in terms of pulling the UPF out of Fabric and back into core.
Exactly. And the
Good.
other thing, yeah, and the other thing that I have been kind of advocating about the Helm charts to see whether we can move into the Helm charts from Gerrit into GitHub, to
Yeah,
make
yeah, yeah.
things
So,
easier from the
yeah,
PR perspective.
that I'll put that here. Also want to move, and that's going to be actually the next issue coming up. So let's visit that in a second. We want to move charts from Garrett to GitHub, and we'll talk about where that is. That in a moment. Oops, let me just make a note here. Where exactly? See below. All right. That's okay, good. Thank you for all that. That's very, yeah, all an opportunity to make this all a lot cleaner.
Correct.
Good. Is there anything else? And just in terms of the big issue of JSON-C, I think I would say go for it. I don't see any objection to that.
Okay. Yeah, it just needs any kind of, at least from the first bullet, the moving the to JSON-C. I need somebody else to help me reviewing and approving the PR, so we can start merging and I start opening the other PR that I have pending in there.
I can do that, Gabriel. Yeah. The
Okay,
JSON-C
perfect.
part. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Ajay.
Thanks. Okay. So moving down to this, I took an item you put, Gabriel, and I kind of made a bunch. We got a bunch of topics that are related here, so let's just tackle them one at a time. So you started by asking about the account. Do you want to explain what your question is exactly? So I think we can answer it.
Yeah, that's actually Suresh's question. I don't know if Suresh you wanna give the details. If not, I can provide what exactly it is.
Go ahead, Gabriel.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, in that blog post, I think you published that blog post when the Ether moved Ether moved from ONF to Linux Foundation. There is some text at the end. It says, those interested in signing up for a new Ether project, go into the Linux Foundation website to kind of do that. So the question is here, do we need to create that account? What is that account going to be used for, or what is the end purpose of that?
Yeah, that's what I thought the question was. So the LF project quote unquote account is related to LF membership. Not I think it's not necessarily, but I'm just going to say not access to Jira, Garrett, GitHub, Jenkins, etc. So it's just your organization. It's at the organization level, not the person level.
So let me try to chime in here too. So I think that so there's a difference between being a technical participant in a project and being a member of the directed fund that supports Ether. And so what an account is, quote unquote, an LF project account. I think that's just that is a user ID to access their systems, and I think you have to have that an account both to sign up for membership. I think that as you go into the links to sign up for membership, you have to log in with your account. And I think you also use your account to access GitHub and Jenkins and the wikis and everything. I think it's sort of a universal single sign-on that's used for every interaction with LF systems.
Well, yes, and yeah, you're absolutely right. The single sign-on, I was probably not giving its just due. It's kind of up to the project how it deals with who gets to contribute this and that. So you can submit a pull request without having been an LF member, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So long story short is basically we don't have to do it. Right.
Well, so
as individuals.
Yeah. Yes and no. Is DAF on? DAF would have the best insight exactly as to how this is going to play out.
Oh. Okay, but at least at the moment we don't have to do it. At least there is no need to kind of create this kind of account, especially at least from our case, as kind of like contributors. We are not necessarily needing let's say, an account in the Linux Foundation to be able to continue contributing to the project, right?
Yeah, now I'm getting a little bit of
So
concern
I
that
think
we
that's
may have something to worry about here. I was thinking we didn't, but
yeah.
you
So
do-
that is the case, Gabriel, today. You know, I would guess that 3 months from now, there will be some property, and you will need that login, that LF account.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
but that you know, there's no charge for that account or anything. It's just the way of tracking and providing access to their systems and their wikis and all of that.
Oh,
And
okay.
so as soon as the Aether project starts making more use of some of the LF infrastructure, you are likely to need such an account.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
yeah,
But we're still figuring some things out. So this is
so see if what I'm typing here in the notes is illegitimate. So in terms of single sign-on, you will be doing that via an LF individual account, much like you have an ONF account now. And that it's reasonably likely will be required at some point in the future, but not in the short term.
Okay.
I want to make sure Timon agrees with that statement.
I do agree with that. And I just think the one thing I highlighted up here, I wouldn't call it an LF. I think that's an LF user account.
Yeah, see, I was conflating the project with, yeah, those are separate things.
So I think this whole thing could probably be deleted. You know,
Yeah, that,
I'll delete it.
Yeah, so in other LF projects I've been involved in the past, they delegate things like wiki access, Jira access, Garrett access. They delegate the authentication to the LF account for things like that are hosted. I haven't seen their linkage with GitHub and see how that's done, or if that's just done through the CLA on the project itself, and that you have to have, the contributor license agreement done, but you don't necessarily need to be committing it from some sort of LF identity.
Yeah, I think your mic is cracking quite a lot, but I think I heard what you said, and I think everything you said is correct, and you're right. I don't think you need this LF user account for GitHub. People tend to use their own, GitHub IDs.
yeah, so that CLA is being worked on. So there will be some transition where you have to sign LF CLA and we'll migrate off of the ONF CLA. Yeah, but I think in the short term, we're trying to do this in a way that there's a plenty long grace period to do that. And we're not quite ready to start that yet. So everything stays as is.
Just put it another way, we're doing everything we can to make sure that developers are not impacted and the project technical community isn't impacted. And if you find you are getting impacted, please let us know.
Yeah, thanks. All right. However, let's move on to the next bullet. We do have an opportunity to start taking advantage of some LF resources. The wiki, and one that has come up is LF has offered to set up a wiki for the Aether project. We historically, it came out of ONF. We didn't make, in the Aether project, we didn't make really strong use of the wiki. It was there, but it was almost pro forma. We tend to work in Google Docs, and you've seen evidence of that so far in what we've been doing here. But I wanted to ask the question, is there value in having a wiki for Aether? In fact, just as an example, we could transfer these minutes of the TST meetings and put them in the wiki instead of a Google Doc. That's probably a more natural place people expect to find minutes of TST meetings. But I wanted to throw that out and see if people had a reaction to that one way or the other.
So, and let me add too, that the belief is that the wiki is more universally accessible. I mean, for instance, people inside China really can't access Google Docs very easily. And the use of the wiki is probably more of a uniform practice within the LF and with open source than is use of Google Docs.
That's been my experience as well.
Yeah.
My personal preference is try to avoid Google Docs, but that's personal preference.
Yeah, and it's kind of historical that we got a lot of mileage out of Google Docs, and it's easiest for me. So when I slap something down, I put it in a Google Doc. And by the way, just as a reminder, there's a Google Doc folder with a whole bunch of notes in it that sometimes get referenced here. All right, dang it. All right, so I'm going to take all of that as a yes. Let's get the wiki, and maybe we'll kind of nudge people to move over to it from Google Docs over time. And one really good way to do that is to move these TST minutes there.
Agree.
Okay, good. Will do. Another transition related topic is so let me jump to this link. There's I called it a repo inventory. You can get to this, you should be able to get to this, it's in that shared TST folder. This is basically taking all the Gerrit and GitHub properties of the ONF and deciding which of the new LF projects will take quote unquote ownership of it. That doesn't mean that that property can't have repos on it that is used, widely across other projects. That certainly would be, expected. But we wanted to have a single point of quote unquote ownership for each of these. And it turns out that it's fairly easy to do. It's pretty natural and straightforward with a couple of exceptions. And those are both in Gerrit, and I'll get to why in a second. But it was pretty clear what goes to P4. It's pretty clear Aether's making use of the Open Networking Lab repo on GitHub. In fact, you should think of that as a landing place for anything we move off of Gerrit, unless it very naturally goes to the OMEC project, which is another example that's pretty clearly going to be under the Aether umbrella. And GitHub Onos project is where all of the micro Onos used for SD-readiness and the rock are. So those three are pretty clearly Aether properties are owned by. You can read the whole document. What I wanted to do is jump down to and provide feedback on it. I want to jump down to GerritOpenCore.org, which is shared by the broadband project, i.e. SIBA/Volta and Aether. But Aether has been progressively, diminishing how much it's using. And I think and this is related to what Gabriel raised a couple minutes ago, which is we want to move the Helm charts off of there. And I think it's actually a fairly short list of things that we already understand that if we just moved them off of there, we would have no dependency on Gerrit anymore. And I walked through the repo, and this was my interpretation. ONF make is one question mark. I'm not quite sure if we depend on it or not. But if you have a chance to go through this Gerrit, which I think I've got a tab on it here somewhere. Yeah. And take a look. And there's going to be stuff in here that it's Aether related, but we are no longer actively using it because it was part of the older ONF deployment of Aether. So I'm kind of slightly narrowing the focus down to what we use going forward. We will perhaps want to go back and look at EtherPod's configs, but we're not using EtherPod config anymore.
So Larry, just one thing, right? I think Gabriel is still maintaining the Pronto pods. I believe those Pronto pods must be relying on this QA pod config to
Yeah,
make any
so-
new
so-
deployment.
Right, so I've referred to that as deprecated,
Okay.
and you / Gabriel can tell me otherwise, in the sense, I know you guys are doing that, and it's got a, yeah, so that's a, these are not gonna go away, these are not gonna go
Mhm.
away.
Okay.
But in terms of the public facing Ether project, I don't think people would care about.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
supposition anyway.
Yeah, then that's
Yeah.
true.
Just a general comment in there. As far as I remember, basically, I think all of this is already, all the repos that are needed are already on the GCP, some type or GitHub or Git repository on GCP. Because the last 2 times that we redeploy the network, basically I had to modify just these repos from GCP to to just redeploy the whole thing. So I didn't see any direct link or dependency from the Open Core website.
Ah, that's
But
interesting. So what that
but-
says is that the copy, the checked out cloned copy of these repos on GCP have become the authoritative copy.
I believe so, and based on what I have seen, it looks like that. At least based on the latest changes that I did in one of the deployments, I had to make some modifications. What I did, I had to check out the repo from GCP instead of I have never worked basically with these local Gerrit repos for the Pronto project.
All right, I'm
So
just gonna, yeah, that's really interesting. I'll go see if I can verify that as well. Pronto. So I'm gonna say this is a claim. Pronto deployment depends on, I don't know what to call it here. Config checked out and I don't know, cloned onto whatever. I'm not sure if you can actually see what I'm typing. It's just a comment here.
Yeah, you again, it would be good just to keep it as deprecated, not deleting them just in case. But as far as I know, they are in the GCP kind of cloud repo.
Good. So yeah, these will not, this is absolutely not that it's going to go away. We'll archive them. I just wanted to get to the point that we could claim, and these are the repos I believe that are in question. We could claim that these repos, we had no authoritative copies of the project depended on that lived on Garrett. It's so if you take a look at the document, this document, and in particular, take a look at this set this list, which I believe by my reading is a complete list, and see if it's right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And thanks to AJ and Sean, who'd already made a pass over these and were able to do a sanity check on it. All right.
Quick question before you move on.
Yeah.
Those repos, do you have a landing place for those repos, or?
That's a good question. So the landing place, yeah, it's for us to decide. I have already taken the action of starting to move Ether docs off of GitHub, and I put it in.
That should be
Yeah,
one of the
this is
three
just my
projects
copy. I
then.
put it in Open Networking Lab where.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
So you should consider Open Networking Lab as a perfectly good landing place. If it's really specific to the core, maybe it belongs at OMEC.
Right. That's what
Kind
I
of
was
up to
thinking.
you.
It could be the Helm charts for the core, and the documentation for the core. Highly likely is that the best place could be the OMEC project, and the rock Helm charts, and probably if there is some documentation for that in the ONOS project, maybe there will be better places.
Yeah, we got three places, right? We got three places.
Mhm.
And I think it's just a matter of which is the most natural. Yeah, coming back here, we've got three GitHubs, OMEC, ONOS. So this is SD-RAN and ROC. This is
Right.
SD Core, and this
Mhm.
is kind of the umbrella Ether project.
Right.
This is one way of
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, just in the ONOS project, it already has the Helm charts for the SD-RAN, the SD-RAN Helm charts, just in case.
They're already there. Okay.
Yeah, they are already there. So the only thing is that the ROC, we should put it as well in here, given that the source code for those components is in that project. So could be the more natural placing for that.
All right. These are good. I'm just going to put these in here as comments. So Helm charts for SD-RAN already here. Move charts for ROC here too. And then it kind of makes sense up here.
It will be first move the
Natural landing point for SD core docs and Helm charts.
correct.
Actually, let me just elevate that to into the document. I don't need to make it a comment. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted. Good. All right, I'll come back and clean that up. All right, thank you, everyone. That's helpful. Let's see, where are we?
Now, one more question. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, go
again.
ahead.
Regarding the moving of the Helm charts, do we have any timeline in mind? Do we have any timeline for the SD-RAN, SD core release?
Yeah,
Something
so
that we want to
it kind
discuss
of makes
now
sense that we kind of
or in the future?
get all these right together, I guess. Well, no, I think it's independent. So it's a natural landing point for the SD core Helm charts as part of the new release.
I think it makes a lot of sense, like to do the release once we move these docs and Helm charts to the new home, right? So
Correct.
that as a part of that release blog or whatnot, right? We can update the community on those new places.
Correct. So do we have any timeline for having the release completed? Because before that we have to do these things. So the first thing is moving these two repos from Gerrit into GitHub. In GitHub, we need to create the empty repos to kind of have a place to put this stuff in there.
Yeah. So I think, do we have DAF here? So we should probably this Helm charts repo as well as doc repo need the CI job. If it is already in place, we can start moving the pieces. If it is not in place, we can still move, but finally creating those Helm chart star file, pushing it to the repo, as well as creating the doc file and updating the website, right? These things will really be, we can call it complete only when those CI jobs are in place.
That's correct, yes.
But at least empty file and empty folder, we can start getting with that immediately, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
And timeline probably maybe DAF like Larry, do you know if DAF is not here? Like, can we start? I mean, it is just like if you're thinking about adding these new repos on the networking lab, right? I think that's one of the project we said, right? If we go and create it there, it's still within the like admin is still DAP, right? So he should be able to create those repository for us. Right? I think so. Looks like it's all within our control, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Like,
So these
we'll
three
have to
are entirely in our control.
Yeah, certainly.
So we should suggest the place to DAF and get that created, and probably a month, minimum a month and 1.5 months from now, it's something we should target to get all these things moved and have the release.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Again, because for the case of the UPF, we need to move the Helm charts
Yeah.
for the UPF inside the SD core Helm charts and start doing all that stuff. But it would be good to do that in having the new place, so we can start kind of having some PRs open in GitHub instead of kind of going through the hassle of Gerrit. So it's gonna make things easier to move on that regards.
Yeah, so we should coordinate with the dev about CI job and creating the temporary or creating the empty directories for us. Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
And if he can migrate the whole thing as a with history, that would really be helpful. I'm not sure if that is possible. But yeah.
So it is doable. It is doable to start to kind of migrate that part. So that's not a big issue.
Moving the CI jobs is what's going to be complicated. I'm trying to make those edits to the CI for the Aether docs, and it's difficult to test it and get it right. And that's not moving into GitHub Actions. That's still using Jenkins.
Okay.
But
then we should need a way to update the docs and update or publish the Helm chart. At least that we should have some way, whether it's like somebody manually triggering something, but at least we should have it in place.
I'm just making the point that you can tease apart moving those things to the repos and moving the Jenkins jobs to GitHub Actions. We can delay we don't have to do them at the same time. I mean, maybe it's easier in certain cases, but you don't have to. Okay. Speaking of GitHub Actions, Gabriel has a bullet on SDRAN.
Yes, so we start opening some PRs for the SDRAN. I start kind of requesting a list. I contacted Ivan. I think he was primarily working on the ONO C2SM repo, when they were part of the ONF. He started providing some feedback, but again, if there is more feedback from the community about this, but the idea would be some type of standardization of all the different actions or jobs that are happening to kind of verify that the code is working as expected. And we're going to continue open a few more in this. Something that I had kind of like a question, I don't know, maybe you, Larry, or Daph is going to give me that answer, but for now, I was also adding we were adding a FOSA check, so FOSA verification, but I was using the same push only token that we created for the SD core repo. I don't know if that's fine or whether the ONOS project has a different FOSA, which I don't think so. It should be just a single FOSA, but I just wanted to double check.
I wouldn't know why it would be different. I don't know absolutely, but I wouldn't see why it would be different.
Yeah, for me, it should be exactly the same. I don't think ONF should have multiple FOSA accounts, for the projects. That's why we start using that one, but I wanted just to double check again.
You should double check with Daph if he knows anything, but I doubt that there's a difference.
Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna keep opening a few more PRs on this, and then move into the rock. Several of these checks have actually been disabled for a while, which now we're gonna bring them back and making sure that everything is built in as expected.
Good. All right, GNB SIM changes, AJ.
Yeah, so I believe this we have done like till last 1 or 2 weeks maybe. The first is like we had the requirement in one of the from the Purdue is that they wanted to have the breakup of the transaction level to clearly get a measurement of the latency added by the core, right? So we have added that change. It's there in the pull request. Gabriel did some review and he has found some issues with the code. I mean, it doesn't work under certain condition. One of the test case fails. So I'll have to look for that. But at least the first change is available in the pull request. Right? So getting the breakdown of the latencies. Second one is about the retransmission of the message. Again, like when we were trying the multi-instance AMF and SMF, and when when we restart the instances, right, we thought it's good to have the retransmission support in the Gnode vSIM so that we can see that eventually whether the subscriber can go through when the new instance comes back, right? So that was the use case for adding the support for the retransmission message. So we have added that support as well. I just need to raise the pull request, but code is available in my fork. I should do it today itself. But caveat here is that I have done it only for one message, but framework is very generic and we should be able to extend it for the other messages as well.
Good.
And third one about that data support in Gnode vSIM, I did some 1 or 2 experiment, few things did work, but packets were corrupted. So I'm not still confident about the thing is that the turn and tap interfaces support. I didn't find any good libraries or Go modules available. At least top 2 or 3, they are lying idle for quite some time and it's not working as expected. Right? So I'll continue to do that, this third thing. And as soon as we have something to be shown, right, I'll bring it back here and then give the demo. So that's
Okay,
a
good,
work in
thanks.
progress. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's a rush on this. I know that Purdue is busy getting their SIGCOMM paperwork, which is a couple of weeks out, so they'll very much focused on that for right now.
Yeah.
All right.
But this will be
and-
useful for the SD core release, right?
Yeah. So we will, so if so basic initial, if experimentation is complete, right, I think then it should be very much straightforward. I think we know what we should be doing the code within the Gnode vSIM. The current challenge what we have is that we don't have the right packages within the Golang to which we can use it, right? I mean, at least there is one which I found it, but it is not working as expected. Right? Yeah, I mean, either like something wrong in my setup, or maybe the module is not working with the latest Golang release.
Okay.
So does it make sense? This is popping up a level that GNB Sim could be on a separate cadence a little bit from the rest of the core, I would think.
Yeah, I think people can use it for the other testing as well. Only thing is, as a part of release, we always say that, oh, these are the new addition we have done in the Gnode vSIM as well to test the new features in the SD core.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
in that sense,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, QA. Kunal?
Yes, right. So, a few questions from the SDK release perspective. Um, uh, Other than GNB SIM changes, is there any other feature which is going to be added, or I mean, is there any release note where we can find out new functionalities if there are any?
Yeah, I think there are many things, and probably we should start adding those things in one of the doc. So you will have some idea like what are the various things coming in. So I think few things Gabriel did mention at the top, right? But that was very specific to UPF. But we do have changes in the control plane as well. So I think best thing would be like adding one again the same Google Doc and then start populating it, like what are the various changes which are already done and what are the changes in progress and which we are expecting to get it finished before release. So yeah, I think Larry, I might again ask you to create one more empty file there in that folder for the release so that we can start capturing the content.
Yeah, so Kunal, I think it's also the case that to the extent the features of the core are tested by GNB Sim, the critical thing that needs to happen is that we make sure that GNB Sim and all of its deployments continues to work with the core, which are integration tests. So I think to a first approximation, making sure all the integration tests continue to run is a critical part of this. I don't think we necessarily will have to go off and create from whole cloth new tests.
Right.
Okay, so let's continue. I think it's a great point to raise though. So we do have to keep this in mind. So going on to your two bullets.
So, as you know, we have created a JAB for all the Ether on ramp Jenkins jobs. We are just awaiting a review from DAF because we have raised our first um, PR um, for the for these JJB. So in the Ether CI management, for now, we are just adding JJBs to Ether on ramp Jenkins job.
So where are these JJB files?
We are for now we are um, pushing them into Ether CI management, as we discussed in one of the TSTs.
So I would like them to not go there. The whole point here is we're trying to get out of Garrett. So
Right.
and these are brand new tests. So what I would recommend is that we go to Open Networking Lab and create a repo, a CI repo there. Maybe we even call it Ether CI management, and that we start doing the work there. But that's going to require Jenkins knowing to pull from there too.
Right. Yeah, actually, one of the related questions were there in my mind regarding what is going to be the uh, the way to migrate test repos to GitHub. I mean, is there any plans for
Yeah, I mean, that
that?
is exactly what this is the first step in that.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not sure what we should call the repo, but let's just imagine it's called Ether. Well, let's call it Ether CI management, and we put it in Open Networking Lab, and where all the other integration work is happening. And we start populating it there. The only question is, do we set up a big question in my mind is, do we also then set up a new Jenkins, or do we have the old Jenkins know to pull from this new repo? I'm not quite sure how that aspect works. Let's start a discussion on Slack and make sure that DAF is included, and we'll come up with a plan for that.
Sure.
All right. Okay.
Moving
Go ahead.
on to the next bullet, which is adding IPOF to UV ransom. While discussing with one of the team members of ESNet, we finalized with changing the host mode to network mode to host. So while using the host network mode, we are seeing a conflict with another host network which gets created for the core, I think. So uh, for
I'm a
current,
little
Mhm.
confused here. So when you say adding iPerf3 to UE ransom, I thought iPerf3 was already part of UE ransom. So I
Yeah,
guess what you mean is setting up the Mac VLAN between that container and the core. Is that
right.
and doing that in exactly the same way that GNB Sim did is not working. Am I understanding that correctly?
So the connectivity with the core is fine. We could attach all the UEs there, but the only thing that the issue we are facing with is the data packets are we are unable to send the IPEF packets from UV ransom towards the IPEF 3 server. So IPEF client is not able to communicate with IPEF server.
And when you, in this case, the server is off-site, right?
Right.
Okay. I thought this was working at one time.
I think ping test was working fine. So we added ping test there, but uh, after adding IPEF 3 client, we could not send any packet towards the IPEF server.
Okay.
The issue might be related to the hyper version that you're using to bind the interface. In this case, the UE runtime interface with the application, or with the, in this case, specific case, with hyper. What hyper version are you using?
We are using 3.7.
Yeah, because in our case, give me 1 second. See, it's not this machine. It's this, no. So, just give me 1 second, sorry. In one of our projects, we had to upgrade the iPerf version. Otherwise, we were having issues with binding to the specific interface. So in our case, what we had to do is using iPerf 3.13.
13?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the default version that came with the OS didn't, or got installed by the OS by APT. It didn't was, let me see, is not one of the latest, and there was issue with the binding itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so
The only strange thing that I could think of is when we bind this, when we are using IPEF 3.7 and binding it with UE ransom's interface, when it is when the UE ransom is not containerized, then it works perfectly fine. But when the UE ransom is containerized and we try to um, run a client on it, then it is not able to reach out to the IPEF server.
oh no, this is different then.
Hey, Kunal, do you have some network diagram? I mean, what exactly you're doing? So that might be a lot more helpful to get the help from other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now we do not have one. I'll create one today and we'll share it
Yeah.
on the Slack.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And I can share what I have for the AIAB typically, which I think you might have to just extend that further to, instead of Gnode BSIM, just include the URAN SIM.
Sure, yeah, that would be a real helpful thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should treat this group as very interactively asking for help and showing us what you're doing and where things were falling over. All right, anything else?
That's all from Kiwi.
All right, that was a full meeting. Thanks, everyone. Lots of great stuff going on. Anything else then?
That mystery, I'm not sure if it is solved, that first UA. If not, I think, are you getting any help? Or let me know if I should look at it here. I think that has been going on for 2-3 months now.
The
One of the UE
UV
not able to
failure.
attach. Yeah, it's still there, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's still happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can Can someone whoever is actively working on it schedule a call with me in the India friendly time? I mean, I know these times are not good. Like it's almost midnight, right? So
Yeah.
maybe one of you, Kunal, from somebody from your team.
Sure. We can share. We
Yeah,
can connect.
thank you. Let's try to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.